Paul McCartney and John Lennon were a creative force to be reckoned with, and they wrote the vast majority of the Beatles' music together, under the joint credit Lennon-McCartney. Their writing process changed over time. In the early days, Paul and John would sit down and write together, but as the 1960s went on, they tended to write songs independently before presenting them to the other for final tweaks. Opposite poles generate electricity. Between John and Paul, the sparks flew, stated Wilfred Mellers of Music and Musicians magazine in 1972 on their composing process. John's resiliency cooled Paul's poetic elegance, which in turn cooled John's raging iconoclasm. Even while John and Paul have written more hits for the Beatles than any other songwriter in history, they weren't the only ones. George Harrison's literary abilities came to light last week in The Echo, which led John and Paul to feel they could not dominate indefinitely. The Beatles were known for both original material and cover versions of songs, particularly in their early years. The album's wild conclusion, Twist and Shout, was one of several covers on their 1963 debut, Please Please Me, which contained other artists' recordings. The Top Notes, an American R&B group, recorded Twist and Shout in 1961. The following year, the Isley Brothers made it a smash on the charts, reviving the song that was written by Phil Medley and Burt Byrne. In 1962, the Fab Four started performing the song live, with John belting out a raspy rendition that had been an inspiration from the Isley Brothers. Producing George Martin's debut album, the band decided on Twist and Shout as the album's closing track because Martin wanted a true barnstormer. On the other hand, he opted to record the song last on February 11th, 1963, the band's full day in the studio, during which they recorded 10 tracks. Concerning this matter, Mr. Martin stated, "I was aware that Twist and Shout was a real larynx tearer, so I said, we won't record that until the very end of the day. You won't have any voice left if we record it early on." We didn't do anything else that night. The day spent in the studio had taken its toll on John's voice. However, he poured his heart and soul into that one take in an attempt to capture the song's essence and recreate the intensity of the Beatles' live performances.